All right, so hey everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Alejandro Caceres. I think nobody knows me except for like these two guys, and I just met them. So I'm going to talk to you about a tool called PunkSPIDER that I wrote. Has anybody heard of it at all? Oh, sweet. Some people have. That's awesome. Usually like only 2 people in the room, but anyway. So yeah, let's get into it. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what it is, how it works, why I built it, why you should use it. I'm going to run through the slides like really fast so I can get to just like showing you some cool shit in a demo. So what is it? So it's a distributed architecture-based, open source, custom-built web application fuzzer unleashed on the internet. The rest of the time is going to be explaining what those words all mean together in that order. So let's just move on. So a little bit of background. Basically what we're doing is we are doing web app fuzzing on every web application on the internet. That's the goal of the project. You would think that to do something like that, you'd really need like a lot of bandwidth. Actually, it turns out to not be the case. What memory and processing power are like 10 times more important than any kind of bandwidth. So this is where a framework called Hadoop comes in. How many of you guys have heard of Hadoop? Cool. So it's just distributed processing. It's distributed processing made really easy. You can write jobs, really quickly. It's super powerful. Some advantages of it, it's, like I said, distributed computing really made easy. It's fault tolerant. It's really efficient, stable code base. Again, jobs are really easy to write. Implementation of MapReduce, whatever, we don't care. So how does the system actually work? So the first thing we do is we start off with a simple seed list, just like any crawler would do. So the crawler starts discovering new websites, and this works almost exactly how Google does it. We're using a crawling framework called Apache Nutch, which is a distributed web crawler. So already you're starting to see a theme, right? Everything's distributed. Web crawler's distributed. We start indexing those results to a backend, which is Solr. So again, all we're just doing basic crawling. We're not doing any fuzzing or anything too interesting yet. Apache Solr, by the way, if you guys are not familiar with it, it's just a search engine backend. It's just a document store that has a lot of search functions, makes your life easy when you're building a search engine, which is what we are building. So once we have that, we need a way to actually fuzz the URLs, right? So we need a way to actually scan for vulnerabilities within this. And when I first started this project, I kind of looked around like, all right, is there a vulnerability scanner we could use? Maybe, tweak it and make it distributed. It turns out there's not really anything out there that's stable enough or fast enough to do that. So we had to build our own. So we did. PunkScan is what came out of it. PunkScan's a MapReduce-based web application fuzzer. All that really means is everything's parallelized, everything's distributed. So already the theme, right? We're crawling, we're scanning in a distributed way. Our backend is Solr, which is easy to shard, which means that that's also distributed. So absolutely everything in PunkSPIDER is distributed. So it's free and open source, of course. So anyway, so we have a bunch of domains in Solr, right? Crawler's constantly discovering new domains. Again, this is all distributed on a Hadoop cluster at my house and in the cloud. Discovering new domains constantly. We're collecting those, we're scanning them, and we're storing those results back. So then what are we doing with it, right? That's the big question. We're actually just making all that information public. So we built an API. You can ingest all the information and just search through the front end and start looking for vulnerabilities in sites. Now, again, these are live sites. And actually, I won't say too much more about that because I'm going to show you in the demo. One thing that we're not doing is we're not scanning .mil and we're not scanning .gov. What's that? Why not? Yeah, I don't really want to be arrested.
They wouldn't know it.
They wouldn't know it. Actually, you'd be surprised. At first, like when I didn't take out like .mil and .gov, we were getting like all kinds of emails. I got emails from like all sorts of cert teams. It was really annoying. Anyway, so, but I mean, I guess that's good, but whatever. So. If anybody fell asleep during that whole thing, this is basically a summary. I'm not going to go over it again. Anyway. All right, so why did I build it? So first of all, I kind of just felt like it. It sounded like a cool thing to do. It sounded like fun at the time. And I really didn't know anything about like distributed computing or Hadoop or how to write jobs or anything like that. So I sort of just did it. As I kind of went down the road about a year into this whole project, I started realizing that there's some really good uses for this on the defensive side. The idea of creating a central repository of basically all vulnerabilities in websites on the internet it could be really useful. I mean, if you're a website owner that knows absolutely nothing about security, all you have to, damn it. Anything? Work with me, buddy.
Government Mill is watching.
Yeah, right. Freaking NSA. All right. From current slide. Okay. All right. I'm not going to touch like anything. It's just going to be really hard to present. What was I talking about? Right. Websites. Websites. Yeah. So anyway, having a central repository of all vulnerabilities of websites on the internet makes it so that a website owner or people that are just using websites that maybe don't know anything about vulnerabilities, how to find vulnerabilities, how to do anything really, they can actually just go on, search if a site is safe, and then say like, okay, this site is unsafe. I don't want to trust it. I don't want to go back to it. I don't want to give my credit card information to it. I don't want to do anything like that. So as I mentioned, when I first started the project, I really thought that the problems we would be solving would be mostly technical. That's definitely not the case. So it turns out that people get really funny about unauthorized scanning and all that stuff. So a big problem what we had was our cloud providers, our internet providers that just didn't want us scanning over their network. I mean, it's really totally understandable. The solution to that was really to just move to shadier and shadier cloud providers. So now we're like, we're hosted in Romania, which is interesting. It's actually a really good service if anybody needs it. Anyway, one technical problem, of course, is computing power. Computing power is actually pretty expensive. So it started off on a Hadoop cluster that was, that's it right there actually on the left. That's in my apartment. Started off with that, and then it was kind of going a little slow, so we started augmenting it with cloud machines. And then what I did was I actually just bridge, it's just a site-to-site VPN with my cloud provider, and I just made one supercluster, so I can spin up machines in the cloud and make them part of this cluster. So it's a pretty cool solution. But we're always looking for hardware donations. So if any of you guys have any free things you want to give me, just in general, not even computers, just give me free things, but computers especially. So again, I just thought it was something cool to do. I'm going to skip this slide. I don't like it. So how can you use it, and why should you use it? So if you're a pen tester or security analyst, this is a ton of really useful data for you guys. Like ReconNG by Tim Tomes uses it. He demoed it at DerbyCon this year. Stuff like that. There's tons of uses, obviously, for you guys. If you're curious, if you just want to poke around and see what's vulnerable, what's not vulnerable, you can find some really funny stuff on there. If you're a website owner, you basically just get a free security assessment of your site, right? If you're a website user, same thing. All right, so some of you think I'm a really immoral dick, probably, because we are doing unauthorized scanning, right? But we actually are being a little bit careful about how we're doing it. So we're respecting robots.txt in every sense. We don't crawl too fast. We don't scan too fast. We're not flooding anything with traffic. We're also just doing really, really, really basic checks. So we're not throwing the kitchen sink at it. We're not doing anything really too complicated. We're just doing basic vulnerability checks really, really, really fast. And we are actually trying to help the community with this. So where are we? Right now we have about 4 million unique domains in the system. We've crawled and scanned about 2 million that should just say we've scanned about 2 million of these. And that's obviously increasing steadily. The system's running right now. It's fully automated at this point, so it's really just a matter of time. Front-end API were released ShmooCon last year. Yeah. So, all right. So, at /punk on Twitter or at Hyperion Gray if you want to know more. PunkSPIDER.HyperionGray is the site, which I'm actually going to show you right now. All right, so this is PunkSPIDER. Actually, first thing I wanted to show you. So please do not use this site for malicious purposes. Basically, this just says, don't be a dick. So I did leave in functionality. I wanted to have functionality to search by wildcard. So we could potentially do something like this, right? Having any type of vulnerability. And we only support 3 right now. This is being expanded to an additional 2 here within the next month or so. And you can search. And you get back a bunch of results. 8,301 pages of vulnerable domains. So that's a pretty good amount of vulnerabilities. Some interesting ones. Go to un.org. This is just an example of the kind of stuff that we're looking at. Man, freaking Internet Explorer bug. That is going to kill me. Do you have Firefox on here, Wayne? You do? Hey, you'd already gone to it. That's so sweet. All right, un.org. We don't support Internet Explorer either, just out of principle. All right. So if you go to un.org, search for un.org, we find this one site. It's a pretty good example of the kind of stuff that we're checking for, right? I mean, essentially, you can see the system working right here. We're just going through the parameters, just simple GET requests, and throwing garbage at it a lot of the time. So if I were to click on one of these, all right, yeah. So really, really obvious bug, right? I mean, this is stupid simple. It's if anybody had even bothered to just like put an apostrophe in like any one of the parameters basically in the site, they would have found this. So that's the kind of stuff that we're looking for. And basically, I mean, I will admit, I'm not going to admit it on camera. Anyway, so what else can we do? So .edu is another really interesting one. There's like a bunch of computer science. Yeah. Okay. No, hold on. There's like MIT computer science is on here. What's that? You cannot. UMD is on here. With again, just really, really stupid, simple vulnerabilities. We'll actually drill down on one of these. Basically the same thing. You run into a bunch of errors. You run into a bunch of really just simple stuff. You can search for cross-site scripting as well. There's actually another one. This is one I demoed at ShmooCon. Prisons.ir, which is the Iranian prisons website. Again, just stupid, simple vulnerabilities. Hopefully they'll load. HyperionGray.com actually is in there, but it's not vulnerable to anything. So just wanted to show you the, and I'm almost done. Wanted to show you how the blind SQL injection scanner works. Basically, it just starts looking for patterns that might indicate that there's blind SQL injection, obviously. So all it's doing is it's saying page ID equals 3937 and 1 equals 1, right? So we see the page already. That's a decent indication already that you might have blind SQL injection, right? We just added and 1 equals 1 and the page didn't break. So let's see what happens if we do and 1 equals 2. Yeah, essentially if the page breaks, it's most likely vulnerable to SQL injection. Let's change this once. Now I'm just saying and 2 equals 2. Let's see if that works. And it does work. So again, what the scanner actually does is it says, all right, that looks a little bit suspicious. And it goes down and looks at 3936, for example. And we do 3937 minus 1. And bam. So we get that same page. So that's a really good indication that we have blind SQL injection. Again, this is really, really obvious stuff. I mean, if you're doing like even just basic filtering, PunkSPIDER is not going to flag you. But if you just have a really shitty developer, then it is, and it's going to shame you a little bit. I mean, that is definitely a small part of it. So that's it. That's PunkSPIDER. Yeah.
Is it positive parameters, or is it using like a sheet like
It's fuzzing the parameters. Well, it's not like a brute force fuzzing. It's like kind of directed fuzzing. So we just built a little fuzzer that just checks for these basic vulnerabilities and works in a distributed way as well. So.
What does it use as a criteria to see? Does it check like the content of the page to see?
Yeah, it checks the content of the page. Yeah, it depends on the check, but yeah, in general, yeah.
What do you do with your access logs of what domains people search? How do they come from when they search?
Absolutely nothing. We don't really log much of this stuff. I mean, we have like default logging turned on. That's it. So whatever that is. Yeah.
30 days for me? Can we see a demo of you running it?
Oh, see like this here? If I type in like PunkSPIDER? Oh, hold on. Let's do Hyperion Gray. So that's HyperionGray.com. We actually don't, PunkSPIDER doesn't have itself in there, which is really interesting. Yeah, is that what you wanted?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we're good. We're good to go. We don't. What's that?
What happens if you do put a .mil in?
Nothing. It should say no results found. Every time we do a crawl, there's just a little step right after the crawl that says remove.mil. So there is actually the possibility that you have it for like a split second, but it'll never get scanned. So that's cool, probably. Yeah.
Alerting, you want to keep this running on your site as people add web pages and things?
It actually doesn't do like automated alerts. That's something we really, really would like to add. We just haven't had the time for it yet. So.
Do you intend to increase the granularity of your search by criteria?
What's that?
Do you intend to increase the granularity of your search by criteria?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really basic right now. You know, it's basically just doing like text matches, kind of default Solr functionality. But yeah, I'd really like to make this like a fully featured search engine, right? So where it's actually like ranking the pages and stuff like that. Most popular ones at the top and all that kind of stuff. So like Zanga. Zanga has a lot of cross-site scripting.
Well, what about
So.
.cn?
Dot what?
.cn.
Dot .cm?
CN.
Oh, dot .cn. Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, how many of those?
Yeah. So you see 481 pages of vulnerable domains, so 4,810 vulnerable domains. So it's a lot of data in here so far, but we're hoping to like expand a lot. So there's about 4 million domains in there. We want to get to about 250 million. So and what's that? So it'll definitely scale to that. It's really just a matter of time and funds. So we need more computing power. Yeah, basically just more computing power. At this point, like we just expand our cluster, and it automatically, starts using that new machine. Like we don't actually have to tweak anything manually. It just adds stuff to the cluster, and it just goes faster and faster and faster and faster. So.
Do you need help gathering domains?
Not really. Our crawler takes care of that for us. But if there's like domains with vulnerability information that we might be able to parse and just insert to the database, that might be helpful. So. All right.
Do you record the freshness of the data in your database, or like what time you last crawled them, so that you could
Yeah.
easily purge or rerun them?
Yeah, we do. We do keep track of that.
Come back as part of the search results. I just can't.
Yeah, you can see here it has a scanned timestamp. So that's just the last time that it was scanned. But we also keep track of like when it was crawled, when it was inserted, and then the system, when it's done with the internet, which hopefully that'll happen. When it's done, it actually just starts over. So we've already planned ahead for everything. We really just need time and free things.
Is there an option to rescan?
Not really. Like the system at this point is fully automated. So people, oftentimes ask me, they're like, "Oh, I fixed my vulnerability. Can you rescan me real quick?" I'm like, "It doesn't really work like that. It's actually picking up like 50,000 URLs at a time to scan. So we don't really have a way to just say like, just scan this one." But we do have plans to have like ad hoc scanning. So at some point, not yet. Yeah. So basically, you would be able to have specify a site, and then it would scan it for you, and then insert the results here automatically. And we already have the system that we're going to use in mind and all that kind of stuff. We just haven't done it yet. So.
What are your operating costs? Is it bandwidth or computation time?
It's pretty much all of our costs are our cloud servers. So whatever they're charging for. Bandwidth is really not that big of a deal. It's really just a matter of computing power. Yeah.
Have you thought about diving into any of the onion nodes and things like that?
No, that's just a whole other can of worms. We're trying to keep it as basic as possible because we already have like a really big job, you know. So, plus this is kind of a side project. Yeah.
Could you deploy this on an internal network for purposes of enterprise scale?
Yeah, you could. This is all free open source stuff. It's under the Apache license, so if somebody wants to like take this and make money off of it and steal it, that's fine.
Or if they want to pay you to deploy it on their internal network.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I would love to do that. Yeah, sure, that'd be cool. So anytime anybody wants to give me money in any form or fashion, that's fine. So, okay. All right.
How's all this currently funded?
How's it currently what?
Funded.
So we raised $10,000 on Kickstarter about a year ago. That's all gone. So currently it's just kind of funded from me, really. I don't know. It really is something I believe in and something I just enjoy doing. So I just pay for whatever it costs. All right. Cool. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.